I was reading somewhere recently about a person who was going through Ireland, and in each one of the pubs that they would go to, they'd try to talk to some of the younger patrons there, people between the ages of 18 to 25, and they would ask them the same question, just basically, do you believe in fairies? And the responses were almost all the same, and they tended to go along this line. Again, this is the young adults of Ireland. They would say, no, I do not believe in fairies, but I am scared of them. I think that's such a wonderful response, and it, in a way, belies, I think, a feeling that a lot of us have in places like Ireland. Sure, that they've got a somewhat fairly specific set of folklore and beliefs that revolve around what we would call fairies, but who amongst us would say that, of course, I don't believe in, say, something like the ghosts or the paranormal, but I still wouldn't want to stay in a haunted house. And in this way, I think these entities, these things, these imaginal beings, if you will, things like ghosts or fairies, they still have a bit of sting in their tail, if you will. They still have a bit of bite, even to this day. And so, for the next 5 episodes, I am actually going to be drilling down deeper on this, and we will be talking about fairies. Now, not too long ago, I had said that there was going to be perhaps like a fairy February. It would be fairy February for What Magic Is This podcast. 2 or 3 episodes about fairies. Over the last 4 years, basically ever since buying the Book of Oberon, which is one of the grimoires I talk about a bit in my How to Read Grimoires episode. But since then, because for some reason there's fairies in this grimoire, I've been very interested in trying to learn more about fairies and the lore surrounding them and just all that fairies entail. And so when I initially announced that there's going to be Fairy February, 2 to 3 episodes about fairies, I started thinking over the holidays, and I started thinking more about fairies and the things that I want to talk about. And 2 episodes doesn't seem like enough. 3 still doesn't seem like enough. 4, no, we have to go for 5. So, Fairy February soon turned into a fistful of fairies. And so that's what the next little while of What Magic Is This is going to be about. We are going to be discussing the good folk, or the good neighbors. I would hope that by now you have listened to my show enough that no doubt you would have heard my intro, which is What Magic Is This? A podcast about magic, the occult, the esoteric, the paranormal, the supernatural, and the weird. But guess what? Fairies, almost better than anything else that I have covered on this podcast, tick every single one of these boxes. Fairies intersect, and not just intersect, but they encompass magic, the occult, the esoteric, the paranormal, the supernatural, and the weird in spades. Now, some of you might be going, I thought this is mainly, I know, there's some paranormal and supernatural stuff in there, but I thought this program of yours, What Magic Is This, is a podcast about magic specifically. And I think some folks might be like, well, isn't the fairy stuff, isn't that a bit of neo-paganism, and kind of like the odd neo-paganism that's a little bit strange and iffy historically? And I say wrong. Fairies have been a part of magic almost forever. And it's one of the most unexamined realms of the Western occult tradition. And it is my aim with a Fistful of Fairies to rectify this over the next 5 episodes. Now, I might pick up a little bit of flack for not, covering the things that a lot of folks that are interested in Western magic would like me to cover. Some would even say, Doug, hold up. You have done 3 episodes on Aleister Crowley, but you're going to give fairies 5 episodes. And I would say, yes, I think that fairies are a little bit more important than Aleister Crowley these days. I would also like to mention that a lot of these people making these kind of complaints are not Patreon supporters, I might add. But with this podcast, I've always wanted to do the things that I want to talk about. And while the Patreon supporters do get to pick things as far as what gets covered on the program, at base, this is my podcast. And I am here not to give you the kind of magic and occult that you want, but I'm giving you the stuff that you need. Sound a bit arrogant, a little bit supercilious? Perhaps. I think that magic needs fairies now. By opening the door to the fairy realm in the Western occult tradition once again would revitalize magic in every direction. We are bringing back, I think, one thing that has been somewhat neglected within magic, and this is the Fortean and the paranormal. Fairies are a much needed reintroduction into a ritual magic and occult ecosystem, which has become somewhat turgid as of late. The unfortunate rise, yet again, of late 19th century, early 20th century Anglo-American occultism, while I understand its popularity, I think it is better left to other people and other podcasts. These days, I see that the occult has, occulted actual historical magic. It is a bit of a grift that the fairies have been in some way left out of the party, if you will. And guess what? They don't seem too happy about it. Yet when you look closer at the history of magic within the West, like a bad penny, fairies seem to show up more often than you would expect. These days, the devil already has his due. It's time to give the fairies some. And so, with a fistful of fairies, I am asking you, the listener, to stick around. Your time will be well rewarded. This I can guarantee you. And I hope you will join me in opening up a fistful of fairies. Coming up very soon on What Magic Is This podcast. Ta for now.